I'm better looking than Troy.
Ask him, did you find something on the north end of Woodbury to play on?
State Farm doesn't get
Thoughtful. Those microphones are live and sometimes they broadcast, so he might hear what you say about him.
Oh, I say a lot worse than that to Troy.
Is that all covered by attorney-client
Thank you.
privilege or
No,
just attorney
just-
privilege?
Yeah, we just give it to each other.
Dad looks like he's up to something.
I'm in a mood. So.
It's the sun.
Keep it to
came out,
yourself this
everyone's
evening, Mr.
excited.
Jones.
Is that a Mason back there? That is Mr. Mason back there. Hello. How's your mom? I haven't seen Rosetta in a bazillion years. I haven't. What? Welcome to small town. You've been
I didn't say
You're from
anything.
small town.
Why don't everyone's
You're
looking
from
at me?
Packerville. Come on.
Right.
Go Austin.
Go Big Red.
Jelly Annie.
No. Gross.
Oh, and tonight, we draw the press tonight.
Grew up in Albert Lee. My parents graduated from Austin, so I know.
That's the big rival. Go Big Nine.
How do you know about all that down there?
My parents are both, and grandparents are from Austin. I'm big Hormeller.
They probably worked with my
I
grand.
didn't say it right.
They probably work with my relatives.
Yeah, Hormel.
Oh,
We graduated with the Hormel Cherry. Sorry.
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
city manager, are our chimes
My nephew's,
properly aligned with
my
the clock?
nephew's grandfather was Dick Knowlton, the president. I didn't know Bill was. That's my nephew's grandfather. Yeah.
All right, listen, please, let me go.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Edberg. I'm the council member from Ward 4, but I am also the chair of the council and acting mayor when the mayor is not in the state. Our mayor is out of town tonight, and I will be presiding this evening on his behalf. With that, I will call to order this meeting of the City Council of White Bear Lake. Will you rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ask the clerk to call the roll.
Council members Hughes. Edberg.
Here.
Jones. Engstrand.
Mr. Walsh has an excused absence this evening. He is also out of town on business. With that, I would entertain a motion to, actually, we'll take the first set of minutes from the regular city council meeting of April 12th. In your packets, are there any corrections or additions? Entertain a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move to the minutes of the City Council work session on April 19th. Also distributed in the packet. Any corrections or additions? I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have a very nice, concise agenda for the evening. I would are there any changes? I would accept a motion to approve to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have an agenda. We'll move to the consent agenda. Does anybody wish to make any requests, or is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We will move to visitors and presentations. Tonight we have a quarterly finance department report. City Manager, would you like to introduce the presenter or any other comments that you would have for us?
No, I don't have any other comments at this time. I'll stand for questions after Carrie does her presentation.
Good evening, Acting Mayor Edberg and council members. I'm here to give you an update from the activities in the Finance Department and the License Bureau. So in addition to the quarterly report for the first quarter of 2022. I thought I'd take this opportunity to just update you over the last couple of years that we've been working through quite a few technology improvements. We did some implementations to improve the efficiency of our department. So as a quick review of what's in the memo, we implemented a system called Tungsten, which is an automated workflow system for our accounts payable system. It helps us get our invoices in faster. The vendors, most of them email them to us, so we can upload them in the system. It electronically routes the invoices for payment through the department supervisors. There's options where people can leave notes, so it's a great tool for us to use to keep our accounts payable process flowing. We also implemented Invoice Cloud, which is an online payment solution. Invoice Cloud has been able to benefit us in two ways. The first one is for utility billing customers. There is the option for them to access 2 years of their utility billing history online. They can go on, set up their account, and go in and look at what their bills were, so that's a nice feature. It also expands the online payment options. Over the years, we've received many questions from residents wondering if they can pay more than with just check or cash, and so this gives online payments. They can set up their own payment so that it's automatically deducted from their checking account, so that's been a great benefit. We implemented a system called ActiveNet, which is the scheduling solution for our online park reservations. It's also used at the sports center so that people, when they sign up for the skating classes or part of the skate program for the skating show, and that's all handled online. And residents can rent the Boatworks Commons community room through that software. We switched to a new contracted billing service provider for the ambulance billing. That also has brought efficiencies to our department. And then we implemented Laserfish. So we've been using Laserfish as an electronic storage option for our accounts payable systems since mid-2016. And just at the end of 2021, we were finishing up putting in all our human resource and payroll documents too. So it's nice to be able to electronically grab whatever documents we need and not have to journey downstairs and to dig through the files. So that's kind of the overview for the finance department. In the License Bureau, it's been a busy couple of years. We are excited that we were able to welcome customers back into our offices in September of 2021. So from 2020, due to pandemic challenges, we were doing an appointment-only basis. So we were back in service in July of 2021 with customers being able to walk in. Our offices continue to see customers from some neighboring DMV offices because there are a few of our neighboring offices that are still on the appointment-only structure for driver's license services. So we offer all services without appointment. To help meet some of the customer needs, we expanded our customer service hours, and so there are 2 evenings a week that we are open until 6 o'clock. Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, we're open from 8:30 until 5 p.m., and on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're open from 8:30 until 6 p.m. There were customers who had frequently asked if we'd ever consider opening later, because when they come home from work, they want to stop on their way home. And it's been nice. It took a little bit for customers. We've been advertising it through social media and in the paper. But it took a little while to catch on, but now we're seeing more customers that are coming in. Even though we have those extra hours, Mondays and Fridays continue to be our busiest times. So very active in the department at that point. We also, during the pandemic, placed a drop box outside of City Hall. At that time, it was for people could drop off their work because we had the appointments. It was hard to get in to get an appointment. So people would leave their documents, and with a check, there were instructions that were included on the outside. And then our License Bureau staff would process the transactions and mail the required items back to the customer. This has been very popular, and there are quite a few people who continue to use this so that they don't have to wait in line if there is a line. And some use it even when there isn't a line. So people can come into the License Bureau or right outside of City Hall, and in the drop box leave their tab renewals, if they want to get a disability certificate, a duplicate title, or license plate, any license plate transactions. So we're going to continue to offer that service because it's been well received. We continue to provide the titling services to many of the vehicle dealerships that are in our area. Though some of our transaction levels are lower because of the pandemic, supply chain issues with vehicles, but the work does remain steady, and we know that we'll return to higher levels in the future as some of the supply chain issues, we've worked through those. And finally, just an update, the state of Minnesota in 2020 had implemented their new MinDrive system, which replaced the old MinLars. So they had an old system, and then in the 2016-17, they switched to MinLars. That system had significant challenges, so they implemented this new MinDrive software, and it's been working well. So our staff are excited to use that. So if you have any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'll entertain questions for Ms. Kinsvater. Mr. Jones?
Thank you. So the difference between, anything change as far as the duties that, I mean, when MinLars went into effect, it significantly changed what our associates have to do. So with the advent of MinDrive, any changes other than it works?
Acting Mayor Edberg and Councilmember Jones, no, we still have those extra duties, so there wasn't a change in the distribution of that. With MinLars and then now with MinDrive, our staff are automatic, when they type in the information, it's automatically updating the state system so that it can be used by any users, whether it's police department or whoever is looking up for the state. That is automatically entered. So that is extra work that we took on with MinLars and have continued to do.
That the state no longer does.
Correct.
Thank you. It's good that it works. Or it's efficient, whatever.
Are there other questions? I have just a couple. How are we doing on space allocation for folks that need to wait in line to get into during the pandemic, we had some really long lines curling around and going out the door. The last time I was in to get my tabs renewed, that was not the case at all. What's the general experience with the adequacy of our space for getting into the License Bureau these days?
Acting Mayor Edberg and council members, that continues to be a challenge for us. On busy days, it's not as long as it was pre-pandemic. Pre-pandemic is when they were first starting to work with the real IDs and the enhanced IDs, and it was taking longer to process those transactions. So it would take like 45 minutes for one person, one of our staff people, to help a customer. There have been some improvements, but a lot of it is just us promoting that customers fill out the pre-application forms before they come into our offices, and our staff knowing the system better. That's shortened some of that time. But on our busy days, there's still lines that happen, so we're kind of working through that.
Okay, thank you. So, again, pre-pandemic, we experienced the License Bureau because of our efficiency and because of the volume and our abilities to bring in business from outside of our community. We generated some net income that was used to support other portions of our budget. What's your projection at this point for where things seem to be heading this year Are we looking at break even? Are we looking at not break even, better than? What's your sense?
Acting Mayor Edberg and council members, I think we will break even or do a little better. Some of the challenges right now that it'll be interesting to see how the legislature works out. So our fees have not increased. The fees that we get from the state for processing these transactions haven't increased. And because we've taken on the extra work that Councilmember Jones had talked about, the turnaround time on those transactions, we're not making a lot of that extra money. It's just some of the transactions we're not even making any money on. And the state is also promoting many online services. So the online services that they're really promoting are people doing their tab renewals. It's some of the easier transactions that we handle that we can get through fast. And so that gives us an opportunity to make more money. The legislature is looking at what happens right now. The state is keeping those. They're trying to promote people to do things online, and then they're keeping those funds. But there's a bill right now that's looking at increasing the revenues that we would get to keep per transaction that we process. And that includes a proposal that with some of those online fees that are being paid, that they would consider sharing some of that back out with the communities based on the number of transactions that you do. So that would be some additional revenue source that would help us. Many of the transactions, if people do go online, the transactions that do come in are just the lengthier transactions that we make less money on.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much for your report.
You're welcome.
We will move to the next item on our agenda. We have a public hearing this evening. Before I open the public hearing, Madam City Manager, is there anything you would like to say or introduce before I formally open the meeting?
Yeah, I think our environmental specialist has a short presentation to give if you want to allow that to happen prior to the public hearing. Ms. Talon is here.
Please, and welcome.
Great, thank you so much, Acting Mayor Edberg and members of the council. So I am here tonight to talk about our 2021 activities as part of our stormwater pollution prevention program with our MS4 permit. Go ahead. So an MS4 stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, and that means it's a system of stormwater conveyance systems, already said that, excuse me. So in the city of White Bear Lake, that's mainly our streets, curbs, and gutters, and catch basins and storm sewer system. We do have a couple small ditches as well. As far as the MS4 general permit is concerned, these MS4s are owned by a public entity. So many of these larger MS4s with municipalities with populations over 10,000 are required to apply for an MS4 general permit, which is issued by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. Go ahead. The purpose of the MS4 general permit is to reduce the amount of sediment and other pollutants entering state waters from that storm sewer system. Go ahead. This is accomplished through the development and implementation of a stormwater pollution prevention program, or SWIP. This program has 6 components, which are called minimum control measures, or MCMs. So there are a lot of acronyms in the stormwater world. The 6 minimum control measures are listed on this slide, plus those MS4s that discharge to impaired water bodies are required to do additional work through this permit. Go ahead. So the first minimum control measure is public education and outreach. The purpose of this program is to inform the public on the impacts of polluted stormwater discharge. And the city accomplishes this through educating via our city website, our newsletters, the White Bear Press, and social media. We also host water-related events and conduct workshops, so participants have outreach activities. to attend. A lot of this program, we really try to partner with our water management organizations. They provide a lot of benefit and help with the education piece. So for 2021, we keep a stormwater management page on our city website. So that is under our engineering directory, I guess you'd call it, our tab. And then there's also a tab under the environment, and there's yard and garden information such as rain barrels and adopt a storm drain programs and different stormwater programs like that. Okay. So in 2021, we provided a lot of stormwater education in both our spring and fall newsletter. This is just a screenshot of one page of the spring newsletter on the left. So in the spring, we do promote a lot of VLAMO events, such as rain garden workshops and native plant workshops. And we also promote the Ramsey-Washington Metro Watershed District Water Fest that happens every year, and we are a financial partner with that program. And in the fall, we really focus on yard waste disposal and other actions that residents can do to keep leaves and grass clippings off of the street and out of the storm sewer. Go ahead. The Environment Advisory Commission hosts an Environmental Resources Expo every year during the last Market Fest of the season. So in 2021, there were 11 exhibitors that they invited. Go ahead, next slide. And so here's just a sample of some of those exhibitors. One of our water management organizations, VLAMO, was also in attendance. Okay. The Rice Creek Watershed District Citizens Advisory Committee requested that they have a tour of the rain gardens in White Bear Lake as part of the reconstruction program. So there were 6 rain gardens that were built in 2018 as part of that the reconstruction program. So they had a tour on August 11th, 2021, and that tour was also attended by some of our Planning Commission and Environmental Advisory Commission folks. And in 2022, there are 3 water management organizations partnering together to have a tour of different rain gardens in various locations. And so that there'll be one in White Bear Lake on September 22nd this year. We also conducted a rain garden maintenance workshop in partnership with Rice Creek Watershed District, and that occurred on September 8th, 2021. And this was mainly for the residents that had a rain garden constructed as part of street reconstruction. Okay. The second minimum control measure is public participation and involvement. And this is providing opportunities for public participation and also an opportunity for public to provide input on our SWIP, which is what we're doing tonight. So, next slide. So in 2021, we continued to promote the Adopt a Drain program, and that program allows residents to adopt a storm drain near their house online at adoptadrain.org, and they agree to sweep leaves, grass clippings, and other debris out of the surface of the storm drain and the curb leading up to the storm drain, and then they report on the debris that they collect. This is a program by Watershed Partners Coalition, which is run by Hamline University. The city has been a member since 2019, and that membership helps to cover the cost to run this program every year. As of the end of the year in 2021, 119 drains have been adopted in the city, but that is only around 6.6% of the drains that we have. And so the White Bear Lake Conservation District in 2022, just earlier this year, started an Adopt a Drain challenge to try to get that number up. Go ahead. So the White Bear Lake Conservation District is challenging its 5-member communities to more than double the number of adopted drains by the end of October. And those results will be announced at their board meeting on November 15th. And this is a photo showing 2 of the drains that were adopted by one of the White Bear Lake Conservation District board members. Okay. So we also each year offer a rain garden program to people that are part of the street reconstruction and street renovation. And it's a voluntary program for residents, and the city coordinates the entire program, and we also provide a curb cut at no cost to the resident. And then the watershed management organizations provide the design and a cost share grant. So far, since inception in 2018, there's been 14 rain gardens constructed, with one in 2021. There were others that were interested, but there's typically a lot of utility conflicts that prevent more rain gardens from being installed. The third minimum control measure is illicit discharge detection and elimination. The program requires us to develop, implement, and enforce a program to detect and eliminate illicit discharges. An illicit discharge is any discharge that's in a storm sewer system, river, stream, wetland, lake, that's not entirely composed of stormwater. So we do have an illicit discharge ordinance in place. We do train staff on how to identify and report illicit discharges. And we also encourage residents to report any suspicious activities. Okay. So here's just a few examples of illicit discharges, such as concrete wash water, oil or fuel, or sediment from construction sites in the streets. Next slide, please. Pet waste, fertilizers, pesticides, and of course, grass clippings and leaves that are in the street. So we keep a website or a web page on our website for illicit discharge detection and elimination. And at the bottom of that page, residents can click on report an illicit discharge and anonymously report anything that they see that's going into the storm sewer that's not stormwater. In 2021, there were 9 reports of illicit discharges. The main reports were lawn clippings in the streets. There was some reports of leaves being blown into the street, grease in the storm sewer system, and sediment and concrete that is going into the catch basins. The fourth minimum control measure is construction site runoff control. So this program implements and enforces a construction site stormwater runoff control program for the purpose of reducing pollutants from those construction sites into the storm sewer system. So this includes having an erosion sediment control ordinance, a site plan review process, procedures for reporting noncompliance, and then site inspections. The building department inspected 21 commercial and residential construction sites, and the building inspectors are also certified in erosion sediment control inspections. So they go out every week during construction season and inspect all of these sites to make sure the perimeter erosion control is in place and there's no pollutants from that site getting into the street. The fifth minimum control measure is post-construction runoff management. So this program requires permanent stormwater treatment facilities for new and reconstruction projects that create over 10,000 square feet of impervious. So we have stormwater management ordinances and engineering standards that private developments and ourselves need to follow. We have a site plan review process, and we require long-term maintenance agreements. So the engineering department typically reviews private development projects for compliance with the city's stormwater standards. So we were extremely busy this past year because there were a lot of school projects being reviewed in addition to all of the other projects. And this is an example of one of the more complex stormwater reviews that we completed. So this is the Center for the Arts new building addition. And this picture was taken right after construction late last fall. So it's a really beautiful stormwater management system that was incorporated into the landscape. So, yeah. And then the city also installs stormwater management features. So here's a couple examples. We redid a couple parking lots this year, one at Mataska Park and one at Lakewood Hills Park. While this didn't really trigger any required stormwater, we still wanted to take this opportunity to put some treatment practices in. So this is a photo of Mataska Park at the boat trailer parking area. And so we put in these rain guardian turrets, so that captures the sediment and the leaves and other debris that flow off that parking lot, and it captures it in that structure so it doesn't go to the lake. So you can see the lake is extremely close here, and there was no treatment previously. Usually we also have a rain garden with these, but it's too close to the lake and the groundwater's too high, so a rain garden wouldn't work. However, at Mataska Park, where we put one of these rain guardians, we are going to install a rain garden there this year, and the Watershed District provided 100% of the funding for that. So we just got a grant recently. The sixth minimum control measure is pollution prevention, good housekeeping. So that goal is to implement operations and maintenance program that prevents or reduces discharge or pollutants from our facilities, such as landscape maintenance, the winter street maintenance, et cetera. Okay. So the city sweeps the streets at least twice in the spring and the fall. And this is done with a vacuum sweeper that removes the fine particles as well as leaves and larger debris. So this is keeping that sediment and other debris from going into the storm sewer system and into our lakes. Okay. Chloride is also considered a pollutant in water bodies, so we are working to minimize the amount of salt that we use while still maintaining the safety of our roadways. So we do this by calibrating the spreaders annually and also attending annual smart salt training workshops. The sewer department cleans the storm sewer system, and that involves inspecting pond inlets and outlets after major rain events and inspecting these underground treatment system, which are swirl separators and infiltration systems. So those are inspected each year, and then they're cleaned as needed. And by cleaning is we remove sediment, excess sediment out of these structures. Okay. We contract out for rain garden maintenance. So the city owns 6 rain gardens. So we contract out for the weeding, mulching, and inlet cleaning. So this is an example of the contractor out weeding at the Mataska Park Rain Gardens. Okay. We also contract with them to install and maintain native shoreline restorations on city property. So we've done that on Heiner's Pond, Vets Park, Lions Park, and the Sports Center, and we also have a half-acre prairie at the Edgewater right-of-way, which is by Cub Foods. And this is a photo showing the restoration at the Sports Center, which is on Birch Lake. So, and there's some information about some of the upcoming projects in 2022 and 2023. And we really focus on these sort of natural restoration projects because it is the best for the health of the lake to have native natural plantings around it. It's great for the wildlife, and it filters the water, the runoff, before it gets into the lake. However, there are times when we have to do other things to the lake shore. So this is an example of a riprap project that we did. We wanted to do a more natural restoration here, but when we talked to our contractor, he recommended not doing that because of the high foot traffic here. The plantings would not take hold. So we opted instead for riprap. And this is an improvement because there was severe erosion occurring, so that all that sediment was getting into the lake. So we did get a cost share grant from the Watershed District because this is solving a very severe erosion problem. So that's a photo, a before photo from 2020, and then the after photo in 2021. We also repaired an outlet structure in 2021 at Merle Avenue and County Road F. So there was an outfall that was at the top of the hill, and so on the left you can see it severely eroded that bank. So we installed a manhole and a drop structure and added riprap to solve that erosion problem. Then we're going to work with the county, and in 2023 we plan to do a dredging project to get that excess sediment out of the wetland area. So MS4s that flow to impaired waters are required to do additional work through the MS4 permit. And impaired water the purpose of this program is to restore lakes that are impaired for specific nutrients. The most common pollutants, excuse me. The most common pollutants are nutrient, sediment, and chloride, and there's also impairments for bacteria, mercury, and other pollutants. So the MPCA studies these lakes and performs tests on these lakes to determine if they're impaired and they don't meet certain water quality standards that the MPCA sets. This list is called an impaired waters list or 303D list. And each impaired water requires an assessment to determine the source of the pollutant. So, and this process is known as a total maximum daily load analysis, or TMDL. And this TMDL analysis identifies the sources of the pollutant and establishes a maximum amount of a pollutant that a water body can receive and still meet water quality standards. So through this process, a waste load allocation is developed that assigns allowable pollutant loadings from each contributor. So on the right is an example, and I'm sure many of you have seen this before, but I thought it was a really good example. So East Goose Lake in our city is impaired for nutrients. So you can see the above water and below water image on the left. And when it's impaired for nutrients, that means excess algae can grow. So that green underwater image is the algae in the water. And that algae reduces the sunlight getting to the bottom, and it removes oxygen. So native plants and fish cannot survive in a lake like that. On the right is Birch Lake, also within our city. It is not impaired for nutrients. So you can see that there's more healthy vegetation in the water, and there's more diversity of fish, and it's a clearer water. So that's the goal. So that shows you what that nutrient impairment looks like and does to a lake. So we are assigned waste load allocations for those water bodies that are listed on here. The only water body actually within the city is Goose Lake. The rest of them are outside of the city. However, we still flow to them. So we are required to reduce our loading to those lakes. So the MS4s that are assigned a waste load allocation specifically for nutrients and total suspended solids, we're required to submit a compliance schedule for the latest reissued permit application. So we needed to list what we were going to do in that next 5-year permit cycle on how we can meet or start to at least meet our waste load allocation for these water bodies. And then every year, we have to report on pollution reduction progress to those lakes in the annual report. So as an example, East Goose Lake, we were assigned a waste load allocation of 64.7 pounds per year of phosphorus. That means we can discharge that much phosphorus per year, and that lake should meet water quality standards. However, we're currently discharging 102.7 pounds per year. So we need to reduce phosphorus loading by 63% in that lake. So how we do that, one example is the curb cut rain gardens that we promote. So for example, this rain garden on Moorhead and 10th, when doing the calculations for the amount of water from the street that goes into that, we will be reducing phosphorus loading by 0.4 pounds per year. So that shows how difficult that is to reduce that loading by a significant amount. Okay. So MS4s that are assigned waste load allocation for bacteria and chloride have new requirements in this reissued permit. That's a long list, but I'm only going to focus on the top 3. So we will be reviewing and possibly rewriting our ordinances requiring pet owners to remove and properly dispose of pet waste on city-owned property. And then also an ordinance requiring proper salt storage at private facilities. So that's new, commercial, institutional, industrial facilities. So you'll be seeing something coming up in the next year on that. You'll also see more education related to both pet waste and salting in our newsletters and other avenues. So on the right shows a couple of advertisements or articles and postings that we could use that Vlamo created for us. So there's an example of our partnership and how important that is, to be involved with the watershed management organizations, because they help out a lot in creating these types of things. Okay. And that's it. So if you have any questions or comments, I'm happy to take that now. Otherwise, my name and email and contact information is on here if anyone wants to contact me later.
Members of the council, any questions for Ms. Talon?
But
Mr.
I'll
Jones?
defer if anybody else wants to go first.
Yeah, I will call on others if they want
Yes,
to do, but I'm not
absolutely.
seeing them at the moment, so go ahead, Mr. Jones.
Thank you. Illicit discharge, does that include pools?
Yes, actually, we've been talking with Vlamo about that. And there was a little flyer created.
It's something I've witnessed in my old neighborhood where just drain the pool right into the street. That is
Yep.
not legal?
So that's a good question. It depends.
Okay.
Because if what I'm understanding is the chlorine in a pool, if you leave it in the sunlight, if you just let it sit, it'll degrade in sunlight, and then it should be safe to discharge to the street.
Thank you. All right, so regarding, and you guys knew this was coming, Goose Lake.
Oh, yeah.
So two things about Goose Lake. One was the shoreline. We talked about the restoration at Mataska. Goose Lake has got significant, we're talking 3 to 5 feet has been eroded on the south side of West Goose Lake. We need to address that.
Yes.
I believe it's our responsibility to do that. It's significant is what's happening in that. Technically, it may not be a lake. It depends on who you talk to and when. They're technically treated as 2 bodies of waters, but whether the smaller side on the west is actually a lake is up for debate, which is the cleaner side, but not by much. So Connie, with regards to what, I looked at that discharge number and go, wow, we're never going to make it. We will never make that number. Just because I know the numbers, I know how much internal loading, which has been anywhere from 85 to 92% is internal loading. The cost per particle to remove on what we would be responsible for, or what anybody would be responsible for, I don't believe it cannot be achieved, that it can be achieved unless we want to literally spend millions and millions of dollars to do so without some other forms that I think, Velamo has approached the city, and I think this is now coming forward. This isn't going away. It's kind of like sidewalk maintenance, just saying in the winter. This is not going away. These MS4 permits are going to get tougher and tougher and tougher. So there is an easy, and I'm not going to go into any more, but there's an easy way to help Goose Lake. But it doesn't help us reduce that, because what you're talking, I'm talking about almost 2 different things, so I know that. But I'm like, what does the state say when we're in a situation like, it's anywhere from 85 to 92% internal loading, no matter what we do as a city for the discharging of stormwater in there, it's not going to make a difference. We could literally spend millions. And we're talking about a total improvement of maybe 15%, which is great, right? Any percentage is good, but come on. So I'm curious what the state would say if we went a different direction and say, hey, we've done all we can do. And I think there's more that we can do. Goose Lake actually starts upstream with the pond. The Birch Pond up there is really, because that flows in, flows down, flows into Goose Lake, and then on its way out.
Is that Oak Knoll Pond?
Oak Knoll
that you're
Pond,
talking
thank
about?
you.
Yep.
So, and there, I know Velamo's having conversation and tests about that, but to stop all the drainage, and that's what I think is kind of unfair about this, what's happening, even though I'm totally for it, I just don't know what, I don't know, do you two as the engineers go, what else can you do, what else can we do as a city to help Goose Lake as far as reduce that number to 63%? I don't, I don't believe it's achievable. And I'm just a novice, but no more than the next person,
I
probably.
think there's been more analysis done to determine what could effectively get this lake off the impaired waters list. And
So-
I think if that's achieved, no matter
How that's,
I think it would be off the impaired waters list. We wouldn't have a waste load allocation. That doesn't mean we shouldn't try to reduce our loading to
Understood.
it, but I think, I don't know, I'm not
No,
sure what the MPCA will say, but
yeah.
it seems logical that if we can get that off the impaired waters list by
so it's kind of like, hey, we're
dealing
going to
with that
help over
internal
here
load.
with the total lake. We're going to still do what we can do to reduce on this side, but at the end of the day, what are we all trying to achieve? Trying to get that lake
Really
overall.
the goal.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I feel like if that goal is achieved, then
That it's like kind of,
that, yeah.
okay. Cool. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
But yet, this goal could also go backwards, and we'd have to manage it.
Right, exactly. And it's, I mean, literally, you two have to know that that's, I mean, we're talking, I'm assuming millions. Millions
Could
to
be.
get that percentage. It's not a made-up number.
And with the research, no matter what we do with the watershed loading, it's the internal loading
And then,
that's what will make the big difference.
How
So
much-
perhaps this could be a topic for another
right,
conversation.
no, I just wanted to
on another
highlight that.
evening.
And I just,
Thank you, Mr. Edward. You're right, but.
and I
you know
just
what
want to
you're
note that we will be bringing, the Venice Lake Water Area Management Organization will be bringing this forward, hopefully this year yet.
saying. I'm assuming the state has an allocation for Goose Lake too, of how much that they have to reduce.
Yeah, they drain to it as well.
Right? Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your report and your overview. I was noting that in our city publication that I just received in the mailbox today, there's at least 4 of the specific activities that you spoke about that are for our reading pleasure in the publication as well. So I would commend that to all who are in attendance and listening tonight. Thank you.
One more question, Mr. Redberg. I know it's about the street when you go out and clean your gutters.
Go ahead.
What do you do with the sediment? Where does it go? Does it go in the trash or does it go in my bucket for yard waste?
That's a good question. So for the rain garden recipients that have a curb cut, what we tell them is if there's sediment that they're removing, to put it in a plastic bag and put it in the trash.
So it should go into the trash.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, where I used to live, I would, in the fall especially, 5-gallon bucket would fill up. And I just lived in it happens, right? Anyways, okay, thank you.
But if you think it's not contaminated with anything, you could.
Yeah, I don't know. That's always the
It's
question.
that risk, yeah.
Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
So we are here this evening to have a public hearing for comments on our program, and I will open the public hearing at this time. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this topic during the public hearing, I would invite you to the microphone. Please give us your name and address for our records, and please feel free to make your comments. Mr. Costello.
Hi, I'm Scott Costello. Take off my, I'm Scott Costello, 2359 Joy Avenue in White Bear Lake. And I am one of your representatives on the White Bear Lake Conservation District. And I am actually chair of the Education Committee of the WBLCD. And our educational project for this year is the Adopt a Drain Challenge, in which we are challenging all 5 communities around White Bear Lake to double the number of adopted drains. And we are able to get data on a municipality basis from the Adopt a Drain program at Hamline University. And the baseline data we got really doesn't look very good. Only like 9.7% of all the drains in the cities around White Bear Lake, not just the drains that drain into the lake, which is actually quite small, but on a municipal basis, 9.7% of drains were adopted under this program. And in the city of White Bear Lake, it's a lot less. It was like 6.6%. So we started this program. We notified all the cities of what their data was and where we wanted to get to by the end of October. And we're seeing a lot of things, a lot of the things Connie talked about, definitely promoting that program. There was an article about it in the press, and in the first month, we've seen some pretty good results for the city. We were at a month ago, we were at 120 drains adopted. We're now up to 165. So we went in the city from 6.6% in the middle of March to 9.1%. So we want to keep doing that. We are encouraging the cities to have a little bit of a friendly rivalry to try to see which city can improve their adopted drain the most. Some cities, Birchwood only has like 20 drains. So they're actually sort of leading the pack, and it would be kind of hard to catch up with them. So we want to look at how each city does compared to where it was at the beginning of the program. And right now, we've gone from 6.6 to 9.1, so that's quite an improvement right there. The question is, can we double that by the end of October? So I'm quite impressed with all that has been presented here that we're doing to keep really all the watersheds clean. White Bear Lake is actually a very clean lake. It's impaired, I think, only for mercury. It's not impaired for nutrients, and we want to keep it that way. And the adopted drain program is one way we can engage the community. So with that, I'd like to thank you and thank Connie for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Costello. Are there others who would wish to address the City Council on this topic? Are there others? Seeing none, I will close the hearing and bring it back to the council. I don't believe that there is any action required at this point. All right. I'll just note that I have become aware in a couple of communities that I travel to. In Livingston, Montana, there are actually signs on the drains that note that the river, that whatever we put in that drain ends up in the Yellowstone River. In Washington, D.C., the same thing for the Potomac or the Anacostia. And I don't know if, since White Bear Lake per se is not the recipient of too much of the direct
Goose Lake actually
effluent.
has signs for that in that area.
Oh, I
Definitely.
haven't seen those.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I'm just thinking it's a noticeable way of bringing it to mind that, hey, what goes in here goes somewhere else, and to whatever extent that's useful or not, I'll let it go. We'll move on to the next agenda. We have no unfinished business. We have no new business. We have no discussion scheduled. I would welcome any communications from the city manager.
Thank you, Chair Edberg, members of the council. I'm happy to share that on Monday, our community development director will begin. Jason Lindahl will be here on Monday, so that's exciting. Next Wednesday through Friday, I'll be out of the office at the MCMA City Managers Conference. And next week, Tuesday through Thursday, our German delegations for our climate smart municipalities will be here. I sent an email to all of you regarding an invitation to a dinner. dinner. If you're interested in attending that, please respond to Tracy by Thursday. That's a dinner on Tuesday evening, next Tuesday evening. So that's all I have.
Very good. I'll just put in a plug for this Saturday is Trash to Treasure Saturday, and the following Saturday, Mr. Kauppi, I'm sure will have staff taking the stuff that didn't end up as treasure. We have our city cleanup the following Saturday, a very popular event in the city. So thank you for staffing that. Is there any other business to come before the council? Yes.
I'm going to put a plug in for Touch a Truck, which is Thursday, May 12th. And I don't know.
Sorry.
Is this like an F-150 or you know, what do we get to do here?
Coolest
Let's create
event.
some imagination.
Any kids of all ages. This is one of my favorite events. It is so cool.
Not surprised.
Kids of all
How
ages.
often do you, I don't know how often you get to go see 40 different types of large vehicles from a garbage truck, and my wife is a nanny, and we've taken their kids, and I probably am climbing on the trucks more than they are, because it's a super fun event. And it really, other communities bring their trucks in, private companies. It's just a great private, public, municipality event.
Will the La France be there?
It should be.
That's my favorite.
But they got so many other, yeah.
Yes. Is there other business to come before the city? With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.
What do we want?